Hello, this is Leianne Lamb, and I'm with Contemporary Asian Theater Scene. I'm here with Nelson Ng. Thank you for joining us, Nelson.
I
Nelson was born in Hong Kong and grew up in the Bay Area. He's a graduate of UC Berkeley with a degree in computer science and has worked in the software industry for a while. He's also here as a Tai Chi master. He has been a Tai Chi master working and learning and teaching Chen's Tai Chi method for many years. And we are so glad to impart the wisdom and discipline of Tai Chi with us today. Thank you so much, Nelson, for joining us.
Thank you. Good morning, Leanne. Thanks for the opportunity to talk to you about Tai Chi, which is close, near and dear to my heart for many years.
Excellent. Thank you. Nelson, can you, I'm going to go off camera here so we can just focus on you. But
Okay.
can you tell me a little bit about how did you start your Tai Chi practice and why did you start?
Okay. Yes. So actually, it started when I was in the late 20s, and I was going through some personal crisis during that time. I was having a hard time and to even think straight. And I needed something, some kind of exercise or discipline to help me to have more daily routine and also be able to help me physically and mentally. So I talked to a friend who was practicing Chen's Tai Chi at the time, and he suggested that I should also do the same. And he introduced me to his teacher. I started in Golden Gate Park in San Francisco, which is an outdoor setting, which was great. And at that time, I was still young, so other than work, I don't have that much other things to do, so I have more chances to go and learn and practice at that time. And it helped me greatly during that period to transition out that period of time.
Excellent. Nelson, now Tai Chi is often described as a moving meditation. Now, the people of all ages, and especially young people, how can young people use Tai Chi to manage their stress and stay present in their daily lives?
Right. Meditation is actually a very important part of our life. Um, I use the analogies to think that, like with the daily life, we have a lot of things coming into our mind, filling up our head with many informations, many distractions, and sometimes important informations as well. Just like when during our daily life, we have a lot of meals, and uh, when we have full, we cannot eat anymore. It's similar situation with our brain. When you are so dense with information, it's hard to think straight. And so meditation is a way to allow us to relieve that, just like, uh, for lack of a better word, going to the bathroom, you relieve yourself so that you can have new information come in. So that is one of the best way to help us to be more active, react quickly with thinking and all that as well.
Thank you for it was interesting. Like for many of us, we're juggling school, we're juggling work or and our personal life. So finding balance can be really challenging. What lessons from Tai Chi can help us maintain balance, both physically and mentally?
Right. So on the physical side, Tai Chi is focusing to helping people balance. And and people, when we are young, we take it for granted because our balance tend to be pretty good. But as we get older, we lost that balance. But at the same time, even for younger people, with sometime um, even though you're physically balanced, sometimes you mentally might not be as much because there's so many things going on, so many new ideas and priorities and something that you want and you or something that other outside influence cause you to push you in another way. Tai Chi is, as you talked about earlier, is a moving meditation. um, from the movement, we find calmness. Just the opposite of Qigong. Sometimes you also heard of Qigong, which is from stillness to find movement. So what it helps us is that through this movement of Tai Chi, we slow ourselves down and allow us to observe and think each one of the movement. And by doing that, it helps us to guide us to figure out, is this the right direction or not? It allows us actually time to think through that period.
Thank you. Nelson, when Tai Chi, it's as I heard, it's not just for older people. It's although I think that it might have that reputation.
Right.
Why do you think it's really beneficial to start practicing Tai Chi at a young age?
Tai Chi is actually a lifelong learning uh, exercise, or it's actually started as a martial art. For the younger people, they see that the slowness of the movement is only allow us to practice the precision, and also it's a form of discipline to slow ourselves down. So making sure that we are doing things correctly. In the daily life, we tend to try to move fast, uh, and it sometimes moving fast will cause us to make mistake. And doing Tai Chi allow us to observe that, and by slowing it down, we can see what the difference with the correctness of each one of our movement. And at the same time, yes, we most of the people we see practicing Tai Chi are older people, because we are more focusing on the health benefits. When it originated, Tai Chi many years ago, a few hundred years ago, that it was actually started in a village back in middle of China, and at that time there was a lot of bandits running around and robbing villages. And one of the retired generals seeing that, and then taught his fellow villagers on the martial art. So at that time, it was mainly for self-defense. And through the years, as people see the benefits, um, and allowing it to help older people, so that is why a lot more older people are actually taking it up at this time.
Thank you. Now, Tai Chi, you mentioned it requires patience and a willingness to keep learning, and
Mhm.
as you mentioned, lifelong learning. How can developing a growth mindset through Tai Chi help people of all ages achieve their personal and professional goals?
Right. So one of the things is that we would do things because we see benefits out of it. And when I was working through the 20s, 30s, 40s, even in my 50s, um, I was very busy working in the high tech world. And I barely have enough time every day to just sleep and waking up and seeing my family. But I still always try to hold on to some time, 15 minutes, half an hour in the morning to try to practice. Because at that time, this helps me to think through what are some of the important things of the day. I still remember I was going through, when I was working for eBay, I was going through this big major projects. It was like a 5-year project, and it was really major because it has to do with data migration in the database and all that. And every morning when I'm practicing, I'm able to think of new ideas. It was not good for my practice, but it helps me to think through some of the issues that potentially could come up. And we were able to, uh, as part of it, we were able to avoid some of the major disaster uh, in some part of the project.
Wow. Well, that sounds like it was definitely beneficial.
Yes.
So, and can you give us an example of how someone can actually incorporate Tai Chi into that routine? What methods were you using
To practice Tai Chi, or on a daily life?
on your daily life?
Okay. So sometime as we do things, we tend to be very reactive. And actually, that's not necessarily the best thing. Tai Chi allow us to slow ourselves down. Um, as I mentioned, Tai Chi is a self-defense. We do not go into a situation without assessing the situation and then allowing the situation to come to us. And then, um, as our teachers say, that we do not want to expose ourselves. We want to tend to be a little bit more reserved. After we realize, assess the situation, then we prescribe. So a lot of time, in meetings, I would tend to be a little more quiet in the beginning to actually hear and understand what is the main purpose, what are some of the things we are dealing with, before we start discussing what we are trying to achieve, what possible solutions that we can provide to achieve the goal.
Interesting. So it's a slow a way of observing
Mm.
instead of jumping in.
Mhm. Yes.
Interesting. Thank you. Yeah, when you talk about Tai Chi, there's oftentimes it's practiced in groups and um how do you think practicing Tai Chi together can help build a sense of community and sometimes combat feelings of isolation that some people feel
Right,
in
right. So as human, we are a group. We like to stay in groups. We like to interact with each other, with the community, as you said. And Tai Chi is actually help us to achieve that. As we are practicing the set, everybody um, have progressed in a different stage, but they can also help each other. By seeing others, what they are doing, it helps us to think how we can improve ourselves. And also the energies that we give up to give out and then helping each other will help ourselves in return. So it is a very important part of Tai Chi. Sometimes you see people practicing by themselves, but then a lot of time is in a group, is a community, that they practice maybe for a very long time. And during that period of time, they provide support and help each other out with their own practice at that time.
Yeah, I've seen that in being a participant in your classes. It's definitely a community spirit where there's a lot of interaction and as well as encouragement and support um,
Mhm.
and safety in a very um, community environment, which is wonderful.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why one of the reasons when during the class, I usually would teach a little bit, and then I would invite the students to to show other students what they have learned. So they're helping each other so that because sometimes um, it is hard learning a new skill set, and people are afraid of they're doing it wrong, but they're not alone, and everybody is in the same boat. And by seeing each other, that people make similar mistake, or maybe sometimes some of the people are better, then you can learn from that and encourage that someday you will be able to get to that stage as well.
Oh, thank you. Nelson, I'm so impressed. You've been offering Tai Chi classes to the community for a while. I believe, on Sunday mornings and during the week. And what inspires you to give back in this way? Yeah, how do you think, can
Yes.
anyone actually start giving back to their communities, even if they're just starting out?
Yes, I think it is great. I'm kind of fortunate. I feel like I came upon this um, art form that help us mentally and physically. And since I'm able to gain some knowledge in this area, I would like to be able to share with other people to see how they can also get benefits of it. In general, I think everybody should at some point uh, give back to the community to help. In return, you actually feel better. I feel better about myself. about able the ability to be able to help others. I see when I talk to students that they actually benefit from some of the learning from it. Take joy out of that.
I completely understand. I think when I was working at Apple, there was I think one of the most rewarding my work was very rewarding, but I think one especially notable thing is when I was helping a child during school and helping them learn to read at a nearby elementary school.
Mhm,
Just being able to see a very tangible, improvement and their joy
mhm.
was wonderful, and I think that's something that's really important to recognize because we're just working so hard
Right,
to get the next project done without looking at, things that are just, um, that we can make an impact outside of our, as part of our work overall life.
right, right. Yeah, myself included. I mean, during when I was working in my professional life, as I mentioned, I hardly have time to see my family or sometimes even have a meal. And and now able to see to how you can have little time to make some impact, to have positive impact to other people's life. It can bring you joy, and then it start the cycle as well. Yeah.
Thank you, Nelson. The, um so it's important to start Tai Chi early on and benefits of doing it and early on, even and it affects your life, it affects your mindset, it
Mm.
affects your physical and mental health. What are some of the long-term benefits of Tai Chi?
Well, long-term benefits a lot of time is allowing yourself, your body movement, stability is something that a lot of people take for granted until it's too late. I always uh, tell people that, um, like a lot of time, I meet some older people that when they were younger, they were very active. They were athletes. Some of them they are dancer, but as they come into older age, they tend to have issues with their balance. And one of the things I tell people is that one of the most important things to stay healthy is to not get injured. And as we get older, if we lose our balance, you see hear and see a lot of people, uh, for older people falling, and that is one of the biggest problem. Uh, Easiest way to get injured and then impacting your health. So just by preventing that, having that, being able to train yourself to have that stability going to the long run will help you greatly. I know for the younger people, they will think it's years away, you don't have to worry about it. But then there are other potential benefits learning when you are young. Um, as our body get older, some of the movement is harder to do. So that's why when you see older people practice, they are usually doing all these very soft and gentle style. And sometimes they don't go as low and they're staying high up because the range is limited at that point. But when younger people practice, there is additional type of discipline we can put in the training that is more suitable for younger people. So for people who want to be more active and pushing it more to the limit of the physical aspect of it. And that can be done as well.
Thank you, Nelson. There is an upcoming Tai Chi inspired poetry workshop happening
Yes.
where we're very excited about. Can you tell us why you think this, from your perspective, why Tai Chi and poetry and how those come together and are so synergistic?
Mhm. Yes. So Tai Chi is a movement of expressing yourself. Actually, excuse me, I always equate Tai Chi to calligraphy. It's an expression. When you are practicing a form of doing the daily routine, a routine of Tai Chi form, every single time, every person could do it a little differently, just like you would write the same character a little differently. and so that you can express yourself. Poetry is exactly also that. Is a self of expression with words, except Tai Chi is an expression with movement. But through it, they intertwine, and you can see using the words to describe the movement that you're trying to express in Tai Chi.
Interesting. That's a wonderful way of explaining that. And then can you talk about the energy and flow
The,
similarity?
sorry, can you please repeat that question?
Oh, can you talk about the energy and flow of Tai Chi and poetry?
Right. Yeah. So the energies you are going it's like the energy you taking in, and then you will express it back out. Um, and then we have like it in sort of a circular motions when we are moving around, and it's like a cycle. And in poetry is similar. So you go through words, and then you anchor yourself, and then you come back to a certain topic, uh, uh, subject again. So they have both have very similar ideas of how to express it.
Oh, beautifully said. That sounds wonderful. And how would one now that you've introduced Tai Chi and poetry, but how if someone's really interested in getting into Tai Chi and starting to start practicing and where can they begin?
I think best is to find a teacher. Um, a lot of time sometimes people like nowadays people like to look at video and video, if by video by itself is going to be hard to learn, and you're learning by without knowing if you're doing it correctly or not correctly. Even though if you have to do it through Zoom, if you're not physically be able to attend the class, it's still beneficial because you have some interaction. Uh, you do need those live interaction with a teacher. Um, in person will be a lot better, allowing the teachers to show you can actually see from different direction of how a certain movement is made by the teacher. And then subsequently, the teacher can also correct you once you start doing that movement as well.
Feedback is pretty critical in the whole circle of a learning.
Yes.
Interesting. Yeah, thank you so much, Nelson, for your time. Is there if there's something about Tai Chi again that we should know that will give us joy and more balance and calmness, um, can you wrap it up and give us an overall summary again?
Yeah. So Tai Chi to me is is something of a is part of life, and it allows me to move myself physically, um, which allow me to prevent some of the aches and pains. At the same time, to allow me to think, and also allowing me to be able to prepare my day with interacting with others in the real world. Um, and to me, I after 30 something years, I still practice every single day. I that's how I want to integrate it into as part of my life, that I see the reward in it. And I hope other people, once they start working on it, they will start also seeing the rewards it brings into their life as well.
Thank you so much for your time, Nelson. Really appreciate it, and we look forward to the poetry and the Tai Chi and poetry inspired workshop and your further practice. And maybe people can join on Palo Alto on Sunday mornings at 10 o'clock.
Yes, right. Welcome everybody. The class is open to everyone, and I hope to see you there.
Thank you, Nelson.
Bye bye.